Hi, Becca.
Hi.
There's been quite a lot happening over the past year, and strikes me you've been doing a hell of a lot already, despite not being president until like today or Saturday onwards. So tell us a bit about what you've been doing, because you've been heavily involved in the nominations process and transparency.
Right. So it's really been a wonderful year under Jim's leadership, thinking about the wonderful resources we have in the Academy and how now, following this period of really unprecedented and rapid growth, we bring the procedures and the practices of the Academy up to where the membership is and really what the standard of professional organizations is. Because we're not a small guild operation anymore, right? We're a big professional organization with a diverse membership. And one of the things we wanted to be sure about is, as we shape policy for the future, to be sure that we were really drawing on the depth and breadth of our membership and the experience and talents of our membership, and making sure that we both made opportunity open to everyone in the Academy to assume leadership positions, to assume roles on committees, but also to put the Academy in the best hands, that it was no longer the size where people on council knew the personnel resources we had to speak really in the most basic way about it. And it was really a tremendous success. What we did was, instead of having a closed door process, which of course we did in the discussions of the nominating committee, we allowed people to self-nominate or to be nominated by others, so that any fellow, that's a bylaws requirement, any fellow of the Academy could apply to be considered for a position on the council. And we received many applications, many more than we had spots to fill, but it allowed us to do a number of things. It allowed us to identify people who were interested, who we didn't know, people who didn't have to come from large academic programs, but reflecting the diversity of practice and the geographic diversity. And that was really terrific. It let us know who had done work but really needed some mentorship or some new opportunities to demonstrate the kind of leadership that would be required to be on the council, and also to find people who were probably ready to go and could really ably take leadership roles on the council, who we didn't know, or we knew them, but we didn't know what their qualifications were or what else they would bring. And so we asked people to speak about very specific things in their nomination. We looked at their service to the Academy. Mm-hmm. We looked at their participation in the SIGs, which we really feel are the lifeblood of the Academy, and where the creativity and the generativity and collegiality that we've always had in the Academy can happen. We used to just do it in the Academy in general, but that's when we only had a couple hundred people at the meeting. So this really allows people to find an identity and a home within the meeting. So SIGs were very important. Vision. Where do you think the Academy should go? What are the critical issues? And what kinds of experiences do you have outside of the Academy that you feel have prepared you for service? And then finally, no application for any role in the Academy would be complete without thinking about contributions to the annual meeting, because the annual meeting is so central to everything that we do. And we ask people also, have you come to the meeting? Have you presented? Have you chaired? Right? Have you brought other people together to present? And have you mentored in that role? Because those are critical characteristics that we want our leaders to have for the next century of the Academy.
Okay. It strikes me that you're a very busy person even outside ACLP, right. Is that right?
I'm a busy person.
Because you've got an assistant at Harvard who seems to try and keep you into shape somehow or the other, is that right?
Yes, I've learned to take direction very, very well.
Have you? Yes.
It's a relief.
Do you think some of the role in the year ahead is likely to involve more delegation, either to fellow council members or to the SIGs or to the working groups?
Right. So in order for the Academy to function at the size we are and with the strategic objectives that we're really looking at, we need to have everybody involved. And so one of the things that was happening was that we had a council. It's fine to have a council and a group of people who come together by consensus when you have a small organization. But one of the key features that's changing has really been a reconceptualization by our still current president, Jim Brendel, to reimagine ourselves as a board of directors. And so the membership will vote on bylaws changes at the business meeting on Saturday to change the bylaws to reflect that there's a board. But that also sets the way for exactly what you're saying, that the work of the academy has gotten so busy. And so the board of directors needs to exercise strategic vision, oversight, management, but to locate the talent within the committees and the committee leadership and the membership to really do the work to bring back to the board.
Okay. Can we get a bit of a feel for what you do outside of ACLP? Because I mean, you've been involved in lots of projects, and I was reading about one or two Massachusetts General Hospital project, which fascinated me a bit. Was it? I can't remember what it was about. That was particularly to do with CL psychiatry.
About guardianship?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, one of the most amazing things about CL psychiatry, and I say this to medical students and residents and fellows, is that the skills you learn in CL psychiatry about how to be a consultant, how to be a liaison, how to help people solve their problems are broadly applicable across so many spheres within psychiatry and medicine more broadly. So if I look at where I first started, I had this legal background. And it occurred to me that nobody was really thinking about forensic psychiatry within the general hospital setting. And so my first, I guess I'm also a practical person. So I realized that if I could solve the types of problems in the general hospital that made everybody run the other direction, that I could probably guarantee some job security for myself. And so I said, gee, these patients who are behaviorally dysregulated, the patients who can't get placed, patients with legal histories or violence histories, or patients who are registered sex offenders that nursing homes and other facilities who had responsibilities to patients, right, were worried about whether they were placing their patients in a vulnerable place because of a new sex offender statute in our state. And we were able to really bring tools, not just to the clinical evaluation, but also to the hospital administration to say, right, we don't discriminate against patients. We think in terms of risk and risk management, and a risk treatment plan is just like another kind of treatment plan, and that's something psychiatrists can do for you. And so we now have over decades-long history of working with our case managers, with our nursing teams, with our police and security, really consulting and liaison, thinking about how we can get the best possible care for our patients, many of whom are quite vulnerable, right, in many ways beyond their medical and psychiatric illness. And so that really led into thinking about, well, what other ways could a consultation liaison psychiatrist bring value to patients and to institution? And so one of the things that we were encountering is that there were many patients who are languishing in the hospital, not because they no longer needed medical treatment, but because there was no place for them to go. There was no one to decide, there was nobody to sign them into a facility, and so we had many patients who needed guardianship. And in 2006, when I started this work at Mass General, there were an average of around a month of wasted time just waiting for a patient to get out of the hospital. So what we did was we worked with the courts. We taught the courts about capacity assessment. I sat in a meeting of probate judges and gave them all a mini mental status exam to say, this is what you're basing your decisions on, but let's talk about what we might really need to know in order to help our vulnerable patients and protect those who are decisionally incapacitated, but also preserve their legal rights in situations where they weren't incapacitated. And that led to a whole long line of work, both in terms of procedures and evaluations within the hospital, but also outside the hospital with the courts, including completely redrafting the documentation the court was using to reflect the everyday bread and butter work of consultation liaison psychiatrists. So it's just another example of almost the pluripotentiality, the limitless opportunities that come with the field of CL psychiatry.
That kind of leads us into the specialisms that you've kind of adopted on things like human rights and ethics and standards.
Right.
I mean, Do you think the industry, do you think CL psychiatrists are getting it right yet, or are there still many more barriers to kind of overcome before we're totally aboard with what you would perhaps term as an ethical kind of profession?
Right. So, I'm definitely not the first one to say this, and it's been widely recognized that many of the skills, the talents, the knowledge that CL psychiatrists have are broadly applicable to the work of ethics consultation. We know how to do consultation, and we also think critically about the individual experience of being a patient and of being a person. So in that sense, it's not surprising that one of the largest SIGs, and the tireless efforts of Dr. Marianne Cohen in building a spectacularly vibrant bioethics SIG, has meant that ethics has had a central place in this academy for decades. It's almost one of the paradigm SIGs. I say one of because Dr. Cohen's been successful in making other SIGs paradigm SIGs, as well as other members of the academy, for sure. But the number of ethics submissions has always been high, and they come from the members of the SIG, and they come from members asking questions at those general sessions about the experiences they're having and the ethical challenges that they're encountering. And it's really worked so beautifully as a model of what vibrant SIGs do for an organization, and what leaders with deep expertise and knowledge in a sub-specialized area of the subspecialty can really bring towards the breadth and depth of the subspecialty.
Okay, fine, thank you. Now, we're going to treat you as a guinea pig, I'm afraid.
I'm going to be a guinea pig.
You're going to be a guinea pig now, because we're going to go out and about. Now we're here at the annual meeting. We're going to go out and about and talk to delegates about some of their approaches towards ACLP, why they're members, for instance. So I'm going to treat you as any other
I'm going to be
interviewee.
just a member. Okay.
Now, do you agree? Would you agree to having your comments used by ACLP in promoting its membership, for instance? Do you have any objections?
No, that would be fine.
You're fine, because if you did object, then
unless I say something really embarrassing, then I expect you to just
you might do,
delete
but we'd probably
or
use
something
that.
self-incriminating. I can't imagine what
definitely.
that would be.
Yes, okay. And I need you to state your name and that you agree to the footage being used.
I am Rebecca Brendel, and I approve this message. No, I agree to the footage.
Okay. Now, the first question, I won't ask you them all, just one or two here. The first question I've got down here is something like, why did you join the academy in the first place?
Well, I joined the academy when I was a resident back 15 years ago. I have to count. I think this is my 15th year.
Okay.
But I might have missed 1 year because I was too pregnant to travel with my second son. But in any case, I first joined the academy when I was a resident because there were so many of my teachers and mentors at Mass General Hospital and the consult service who were so involved in the academy and had seen it as their professional home and as the place where they learned, they made friends, and they played a lot of golf. Now that the meeting's gotten so busy.
A lot of golf.
Golf.
Oh, sorry.
So if you looked actually back at some of the meetings, there are epic stories of life-threatening adventures on frozen golf courses. But I'm not a golfer, but there has been some good tennis at the academy. But in all seriousness, this organization is one in which we nurture each other, we learn from each other, we always have a good time together, and the scientific quality of the meeting has just and diversity has just grown exponentially over the years. So I came in the beginning because others found it useful, and I immediately realized that this was someplace that I wanted to be my professional home over the years, even, as we talked about previously, even as my career has changed and the topics of focus have changed some, it's always coming back home.
Okay, what is your favorite part of the meeting? And you could say the president's address, I suppose, or something like that.
Right, the president's address. Well, that would be a little self-referential. No, I think my favorite part of the meeting is meeting people, is interacting with colleagues, is thinking about the work that we're doing and the opportunities for collaboration, and so many partnerships in work, in thinking, resources in life have come out of this group. I think about Now I'm on the other end. But when I had very young children at the meeting, how supportive people were to me and how much advice I got about that, and how critical relationships with other female psychiatrists in particular have been at this meeting in terms of developing a network and really a support network for each other professionally, personally, and beyond.
Okay, it says here, what would you suggest to someone who's attending the meeting for the first time?
This is a great question. It happened this morning. I was late in getting my name tag, and somebody didn't say hello to me in the elevator. So I said, well, this must be somebody who hasn't been to the meeting before, because I tend to I go out of my way to meet people. So for a first-time attendee, as I said to my new colleague Rebecca this morning, the best thing to do at this meeting is to look at the list of SIGs and go to any of the SIGs that interest you. Find a way to find a home at this meeting. And the reason I say that is that, as I talked about, the greatest strength of this meeting is the collegiality and the productivity that comes from that. And now that we're bigger, with over 1,000 attendees regularly at the meeting, it's hard to just do that by talking to the person sitting next to you, but by going to the SIGs, it's a smaller group. It's a place to meet others, to develop collegial relationships with people who are doing work in the same area, and then also to find one that feels like a good fit. So there might be multiple purposes, but people you'd like to have dinner with, people you'd like to spend time with, people you'd like to know more over the years.
Which is a good advertisement for someone who's never attended, perhaps.
Right, so I think people oftentimes feel like they need to sign up for the SIG, they need to be a member. People should go to the SIG meetings. They are open meetings, and the biggest barrier, of course, is when they happen at 7 o'clock in the morning, because we hope that people are having such a good time meeting colleagues at the meeting that they're going to sleep late.
Okay. Becca, thank you very much indeed for helping us out.
Thank you.